Hey guys, welcome back to another MLB The Show sorry, not the show, franchise mode video. I wanted to start off the video by showing off the standings for the 2018. So that's 2018, that's not 2019. Because part of the reason why I wanted to show that one was more because, you know, that was the year I'm basically redoing. We're not redoing, I'm coming off that year. So that previous year, they won, the Miami Marlins won 63 games. So they still finished last. And then in 2019, I'll show the picture in the next video, they won 57 games. But since we're redoing the 2019 season, I can't really use that as a basis to give it to Derek Jeter and be like, hey, listen, your team's coming off 57 wins. I have to basically be like, oh, well, we did a couple moves from that 2018 roster. I'm not sure if they traded other people away. Like I said, I don't really follow that much baseball, so I'm not sure if the roster just got worse during mid-season and they just decided to trade everybody. I'll definitely try to see if I can look into that and try to figure out so that way. Because, at the end of the year, my performance review with Derek Jeter's coming up, so I do not want to get fired here. Definitely want to do what I can, but the roster's just, it's just not ready right now, especially from what it looks like they want to develop Magnus Sierra, but Magnus Sierra, he's like a 67 overall, so it doesn't really allow me to put somebody else with a high overall there if we're going to develop him. So it's either we develop him or we just put him on the bench. It's one or the other. Luckily, we got lucky with Cairo. I think had we put Cairo a little bit in the beginning of the season, we might have done a little more, a little better. We might have actually been able to compete with the Mets, but it's all good. Right now we get this win over here, over the Braves. It's a good division rivalry. So key win here. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to finish. If the number is 63, it seems a little hard to get there right now because we're barely at 48. So as long as we get like 60, I think we should be okay. 3 games less. We'll just blame it on the we'll just blame it on the American League division my matchups. Cause that's the one thing about baseball that I know I mentioned in a previous video was that the fact that you can't really say, oh, well, we got injured, because for the most part every single time I simulate there's not really much injuries to players. So I know that that's always usually a factor that goes into like whether or not a team does well, is whether or not injuries were a part of it. And this is like the one simulation mode that for the most part, like, injuries don't really play a factor here. And he throws the fastball by him here, 0-1. The Dodgers. Oh god, I'm actually looking forward to, obviously once, and by the way, this is the second video I'm recording since the COVID-19 outbreak. So obviously seasons basically all sports are pretty much canceled. So I really hope that once we get through this tragedy together, we can, go back to watching some baseball. Because definitely, 2020 was looking really good for the Dodgers. They had just got the big trade with Mookie Betts, and they still don't know. And obviously, a little glitch there, but don't worry, they'll show an instant replay, and you guys will be able to see how I screwed up right there. Words can really describe that. It's just a rookie move right there, It is what it is at this point, and then it is what it is again.
Looks up off the sculpture. It's a home run. Yeah, and that home run is an absolute backbreaker.
Yeah.
You still have some baseball
But you
left
know,
to
the
play
the
here.
Dodgers had a really good
Now,
lead.
it could
I
be a
mean, we
non-debate
still don't
situation,
know.
so they might get the rest
The
of their
season would
clothes
have
for the
had to
rest of the day.
unfold to
4
really
runs
know
feels
whether or
awfully
not
good.
it was like a 1-year rental, kind of like what they did with Machado, where they kind of were like, yeah, we're only having you for this year because we're not going to pay you the 30 million that you want or whatever the ballpark. Well, I mean, he got 30 million from the Padres, but I don't know if that was the number he told, like he was reported to get, basically. So I mean, Mookie's probably going to be well north of that. I think he'll probably end up being somewhere within the Angel guy at Troy Glout. I'm mispronouncing his name. I know I'm gonna get crap for that, but because I think his contract was like 13 years, 400 million. I would not be surprised if Mookie gets something like that, or at least a probably 350, easy. I mean, granted, the other thing that hasn't really come out, I know obviously we've all given crap to the Astros, but you know the Red Sox were also under investigation. So I don't know if, depending on what comes out from that investigation, what it would. Well, at least we give something to the fans. Whoever caught that, you get a souvenir to take home. And my boy Granderson, who says you're too young to hit a homer? I mean, too old to hit a homer. Sorry. 38 years old, still popping them balls all out of the field. And Dave Roberts is pissed. He's like, why didn't we get the stat sheet on this guy? Who the hell was running scouts on him? He has power. And I'm like, this is why you never count a guy out until he's out. That's the only thing. Well, actually, let me finish the first topic, but actually, yeah. So we still don't know whether or not the investigation will point out that Mookie was part of it. I really hope he's not. And if he was, let me just say that a third time. If he was, it would, would it hurt his market value? That's basically the key question right there. Because if it does, then obviously it'll probably end up going down to basically Manny Machado's number of 300 million. But if it doesn't hurt his market value, then it should be, like I said, somewhere between that $350, maybe $400 million contract. So we'll see if the Dodgers will end up keeping Mookie. Obviously LA has a lot of money, so they'd be willing to spend it. So, but now going to the point I was gonna make during a homer, but I really wanted to finish this point first. This is another good thing I love about baseball is, people in their late 30s, not a lot of sports consider that. People in their late 30s, sometimes even in their 40s, they could still be powerful, like roster type people, players, sorry, not people. Roster type players. You can have like I believe the Mariners at one point in their history had like a 42-year-old ace. That was like striking people out, making All-Star game appearances, still at like 41, 42, which is kind of unheard of in other sports, like like football, like football. I think the average career is like 3 to 4 years, so you could literally be really young in what's supposed to be the prime of your life, and like you could be like 28, 29, and still basically in your prime, and to an NFL team you might be considered, oh well, you're done. And in the NBA, I think, with the exception of a couple players, I think for the most part, once you get to like the mid 30s, like 34, 35, your value just becomes very, very minimal. Like if you play, you're basically on the bench until you basically fill out roster minutes. But like I said, there are exceptions to this. Obviously, there's players that actually, because of the talent or because of the power that they had when they were younger, they're still you know, in the league and still kind of making a little bit of an impact. But then there's teams that, like, players that go out of the league and they have to go to China or other sports leagues to kind of stay relevant or possibly make a little comeback later on in the NBA. But this MLB, for the most part, you know, I've seen a lot of like older like players still be there and still be relevant and still be an important part to the team. And you know, Granderson, he's one of those players. You know, there's definitely, I know there's a previous video where Granderson also hit a homer for me, and you know, that to me, that's great. You know, like you know, that's good for him. Definitely it made my decision to extend his contract for another year that much easier. Granted, I don't think he's happy. From what I remember, he's not one of the happier guys to be in Florida, which is surprising because a lot of people love the weather. But you know, maybe you know, I would have to, you know, I think some people prefer to be closer to home, which I think is Granderson's case. So I really hold that against him. But he still produces my homers. He still comes in, does the work, pops the flies. And they go down swinging. Here we go again, one more time. I actually legit thought that was the third out, the third strike. But you got, I'm surprised we didn't get an error for that one for the one mistake I made, where literally I'm just like going around in circles until I get the hit, and here comes Dave Roberts. Hey, you still mad, bro, or you got over it? Did you get the little Gatorade break? Dave. Oh damn, he ran to ignore me. Okay. I'll get his attention. And of course they get my boy Jensen. So yeah. Yeah guys, I skipped to the second, basically bottom of the 9 2 outs because Jensen was just fantastic. So, and there we go. That game's over. Game was over. So we tried, but unfortunately it was just too much of a lead. And so we win one game with the Dodgers, we win one with the Rockies, which is also not good. We do beat the Reds here. Ooh, definitely we need to get this one in. We need to start getting these wins. So 53 and 79. Ooh. So I would say we're about 10 games out of basically tying 2018's record. So if we get this win, that goes down to 9.
And good evening to those of you just joining us on the show.
And of course, my boy Anderson.
The Miami Marlins batting here in the bottom.
My boy. He's gonna want a big contract, and you know that's why I'm saving all this money, so that way Derek Jeter has to give me the extension money. You hear that, or I'm gonna have to be like, hey, you know what? Since I saved you all this money, since I saved you 30 to 40 million in cash, I'm gonna need a $3 million bonus, and let's turn that into ownership money. I would be dead willing to like transfer my bonus and make it ownership, like stake, like, you know, like even if it's like a small 2%, 3%, because that way I could just be like, hey Derek, you can't fire me no more because I'm part of the ownership. Be like the one guy that'd be like, you can't fire me anymore because I'm part of the team now. You would have to buy me out, and the boy would be like, alright, we'll buy you out. Oh damn. But now that would secure my place now. Like, hey, I own 2% of this team, and so I'm using my 2% money to extend Brian Anderson and extend myself a 3-year contract. Oh, I'll just pull the really petty card with there, and we do get the win, guys. Sorry, I'm getting so sidetracked here. I'll pull the really petty card and be like, you know what, Derek Jeter, you don't even own this team fully. You're a partner. And I think you're a minority partner. Let me speak to the majority owner of this team. You know, like I don't know if you guys work in customer service, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Like the people that get upset, and then like say for example, like you're a supervisor or you're a manager, and they start talking to you, but they don't like where the conversation's going, so they're just like, I want to speak to the next to the next highest manager, or I want to speak to the general manager of this location for whatever it might be, or I want to speak to your supervisor, to your boss. Or they and say for example they actually do speak to your boss, because this actually has happened to me before, where the GM, or in my case the senior, which is below the general, would come down, speak to the guest, and if the general manager wasn't available, they would be upset, or if they speak to the general manager and the conversation goes nowhere, they're like, I want to speak to the district manager. Like they just find any way to kind of escalate this and make it a bigger issue, and that would be me like, Derek Jeter, you don't own this team. I want to speak to the next available owner. you're just another partner in this, just like me. Alright guys, but I think this is exactly where we'll leave the video. You know, we'll simulate this game, and we'll be right on September, and we'll leave it right here. We'll play this one out, just so we can get those wins, guys. I really appreciate you guys sticking around watching. Stay safe out there, guys.